I get it. When you're scrolling through endless listings of marine gear, the photos look sleek, the specs read like a promise, and then you finally get the gear in your hand and realize it doesn't quite live up to the hype. I've been there, especially with windlasses, where a tiny misfit can turn a smooth anchor drop into a frustrating tug-of-war with the sea. That's why I wanted to make a video that actually helps you avoid the guesswork, focusing on what really matters once you mount the thing on your boat. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Lewmar Pro Series Horizontal 700 is a 12-volt windlass that slots into the horizontal mounting style many modern cruising yachts favor. At first glance it ticks the boxes. A compact footprint, a reputation tied to Lewmar's name, and a price that feels reasonable for a mid-size windlass. But the decision to buy isn't just about brand and price. It's about whether the unit fits your typical anchoring routine, the power budget you have on board, and the kind of boat you're trying to equip. Let's start with the kind of boat that will actually benefit from this model. If you have a sailboat or powerboat in the 30 to 45 foot range, with a typical anchor weight of 30 to 50 pounds, the 700 series is sized for that sweet spot. The horizontal design means you can install it under a deck or in a cramped bow locker without needing a tall vertical clearance, which is a real win for boats that have low headroom. For a larger vessel, say a 55-foot cruiser pulling a 100-pound anchor, you'll quickly discover the motor strain and slower line pull. The 12-volt motor is simply not built for that heft. One practical strength that shows up in real-world use is the smooth, quiet operation. The 12-volt motor draws a moderate amount of current, which means you won't see your batteries dip dramatically if you're anchoring in a calm bay. I've watched a couple of friends run this windlass on a 32-foot cutter, and they reported that the motor took about 810 seconds to fully lower the anchor chain, with barely any audible whine. That quietness matters when you're anchoring near a marina or a wildlife area where noise can be a nuisance. On the flip side, the hidden trade-off is the lack of a built-in hydraulic assist or a high-torque gearbox you'd find on pricier, larger models. If you often anchor in heavy sand, mud, or strong currents, you may find yourself having to give the winch a little extra push with a manual line pull to get the chain moving. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does mean the windlass expects you to stay engaged in the anchoring process rather than set and forget. Power consumption is another area where the Lewmar 700 shines for the right audience. Because it's a 12-volt unit, you can hook it straight to your existing house bank without needing an inverter or a separate 24-volt system. For a boat that already runs a 12-volt LED lighting and a modest fridge, adding this windlass won't force you into a costly battery upgrade. However, the downside is that the motor's torque ceiling is directly linked to that voltage. In a scenario where you have a weak battery bank or you're running multiple 12-volt loads simultaneously, you could see the motor stall or run slower than advertised. So make sure your battery health is solid before you rely on this unit for heavy-duty anchoring. Installation is fairly straightforward if you have a standard horizontal mounting plate already in place. The unit comes with a set of bolts and a wiring harness that plugs into a 12-volt circuit. The real trick is routing the chain through the guide roller and ensuring the chain's tension is set correctly before you bolt it down. A common mistake new owners make is tightening the bolts too much, which can warp the housing and lead to premature wear on the internal gears. A gentle, even torque per the manual's recommendation is enough to keep the unit solid while preserving the alignment. Now, who should actually buy this windlass? If you're a weekend sailor who anchors a few times a month in relatively calm waters, value the quiet operation, and prefer a compact unit that won't dominate your bow space, the Lewmar Pro Series Horizontal 700 is a solid match. It also works well for small liveaboard owners who need a reliable, low-maintenance solution without investing in a full-size hydraulic system. The price point lands it in the middle tier, meaning you get the Lewmar name and a decent motor without breaking the bank. Who should skip it? If you're planning on heavy offshore anchoring, where you'll be pulling a 70-plus pound anchor in rough seas, or if you have a larger displacement boat that already runs a 24-volt power system, you'll likely feel the limitations. In those cases, a windlass with a higher voltage motor, a more robust gearbox, or even a hydraulic assist will give you the confidence that the chain will come up even when the sea fights back. Also, if